Welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, hosted by the fearless Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. You're watching us on OBBM Network TV, and this is episode 25. My guest this week is Al Fusco. We'll be talking to him very shortly. And the states that we're going to be reviewing this week are Arizona, California, Georgia, Idaho, Maryland, Michigan. Our vote notes is about Maine. And at the end, you're going to have my final thoughts. So let's get right to it right now and welcome Al Fusco to SYNC-O-WICZ. How are you, Al?
I am very good. And how are you? The hardest working woman in voter integrity, no doubt.
Oh, thank you. I'm doing great. Very, very, very busy. We don't really talk about all the stuff we've been doing. We will in the very near future. But yes, we have been working very hard.
Right. As you always do since I've known you.
And what we met a year ago, it must be at least a year ago.
At least a year ago. Yeah. And just interviews on the shows and everything. We really were in the fight, Linda. We really were in the fight, and nobody was in the fight like you were. I mean, just what you do every day. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've mentioned you on the old radio show and on the podcast about how you're just tenacious. From one state, you moved to all 50 states to make sure that that our voter integrity was intact. And it's an ongoing battle. I know that. But nobody fights it like you do, my dear. So congratulations.
Thank
and congratulations
you.
on the show.
We are making a lot of headway, a tremendous amount of headway. But, you know, as I always say, we keep a bit quiet. So we're just doing our work. And when people see what we've done, they're going to be excited.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we wanted to talk about the fact that you have a podcast you're going to be restarting. And the podcast is called America in Action.
Yes, it is. I've had the podcast for a while. Also, the precursor to it was my radio show. I had a radio show on Saturdays on WENG, local radio station here in Florida. And I'm now I'm going to be restarting the podcast, and I would like to get the radio show picked up. So it was very, very successful. And then we had some creative differences with the station. And so now we're back at the podcast, and we're moving into radio again. So I hope to have that restarted in the fall sometime. But it was basically a show about the current events, but I inject a little humor because, you know, I'm an entertainer and I'm a singer. And so I put impressions in, and we did celebrity interviews. So it was kind of an eclectic mix, but people could find it still, the old episodes on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. So it was a lot of fun. And primarily the reason I started was I needed to get the president elected. So that was my voice. That was my way of ensuring that, 45 would be 47. And in some small part, I guess it worked. So that made me very happy.
Yeah. You definitely helped out. So since you're from Florida, I wanted to ask you, are you paying attention to anything that's going on in Florida right now, or?
Well, I'm perfunctory, but I always have to defer, because every time we even talk about it, you are twice as knowledgeable about what's going on in my own state as I am. So I just pretty much say, well, I've heard about that, Linda, but could you explain it? Because nobody really explains it like you do.
Yeah, well, we had Florida as one of our topics last week, again, with Miami on what was going on what they tried doing in extending a year onto the mayor and the council people?
Right.
An extra year without going to the public, and then it went to court. And after it went to court, then they had an emergency meeting a few weeks ago, but there wasn't a quorum. And it's just like, really?
Always something.
Really?
It's really. And the funny thing about it is they think no one could see the tactic. that it's, that it's just that they could just get away with things like that, and the left does that constantly. Well, we didn't
And
have a quorum, or one excuse or another. It's ridiculous. It's what we have to
I know.
put up with. Yeah.
Well, it's not just in Florida. I mean, it's all over the country. We see a lot of these games and that are
Mhm.
going on, which is why we have our program. The SYNC-O-WICZ program is for election integrity and to educate the public on what's going on across the country.
Right.
And
Right.
there's always a lot going on.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things we were going to briefly talk about, as you mentioned before we came on the program, was September 10th was just a horrible, horrible day
I,
with Charlie Kirk being
right.
assassinated.
Yeah. I
You know,
I
he's
no words. I mean, I went on my X is really where most of my political things are. The website is primarily the entertainment side. So when you go to alfusco.com, you'll hear me sing, you'll hear those things. But if the political part of it is my Twitter, my X, which is alfusco4 on X,
okay.
and I have no words. What happened that day was not only horrific, not only representative of the insanity of all the nonsense, the transgender nonsense, and all these things that were fomented by the left for all this time, kind of the culmination of it, but also in silencing that bright light, that intellect that he was. It just seemed to me that it was the culmination of, I like to say that he was maybe target number 3, maybe 2. Obviously, our president, God bless him and keep him, he's number 1. There would be a Steve Bannon or someone like that right there. And Steve's an incredible voice, but I really submit that Charlie was even more dangerous, that he was turning young minds by doing what he was doing, Linda. It was miraculous, and he would just do it. I like to say that he was Christ-like. He lived his life that way. He lived his life in a Christ-like manner, but also the way he engaged. People would be hostile to him, and just calling him every kind of vile racist and this and that, and he would be calm, like Solomon, just calm, and talk to them and want to bring them to the front of the stage. I think that's what frightened the left the most. I really do. I
Well,
think it was the fact, yeah, yeah, that he
I was
just
going to say
engaged.
I had the opportunity to meet him several times,
Uh-huh.
and he was just such a charismatic person, down to earth.
Mm,
If anybody has ever gone to the Turning Point events, it's
right,
incredible all the stuff they've had.
right.
But when I first heard it on the radio, I
Oh,
mean, I was in shock, absolute shock. When I had run out and then I got back to the office and turned on Fox News to hear what was going on, and I just couldn't believe it.
yeah,
And
exactly.
my first thought was the fact that when he did pass, that when we heard he had passed,
Right,
that they better refer to this as an assassination, because
right,
that's what it was.
right,
And the fact that
right.
he was hit in the throat
Oh my
was to
God.
silence his voice.
Right,
And for a
right.
little bit of time there, because I hadn't at that point seen the actual video, and I'll tell you, people, do not. If you have not seen it,
No, no, no,
do
it's horrific.
not
Right,
look at the video, because it'll be something you will never get out of your
right.
head.
Don't remember him that way.
Um,
Yeah,
I said, I was just like, does God really want him to be a martyr? Well,
right.
yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So our thoughts and prayers on everything that he has done,
right.
for the young people and for the religion and just everything. He's in heaven. He's in a good place.
If
We need to
anybody, if
have
anybody is, it's certainly him, Linda, and it's
yep.
just the intellect. I mean, I watch now, of course, once he passed, all the interviews flowed, and then who's going to take off Turning Point, and then, but if you watch a collection of this young man, this brilliant young man who dropped out of college, okay, that it was
Mhm.
not formally educated, he was self-taught. His knowledge was encyclopedic. his recall,
Oh,
his
yeah.
command of the facts of the Bible, of quotation. I mean, he would illustrate his points with quotation that, a 70-year-old man who had studied philosophy would have trouble recalling in a spot like that. He was just an extraordinary young man. And then you couple it with a beautiful wife, two babies, the senselessness. But, I submit it's not senseless. I mean, I always have, I'm the skeptic and I'm the conspiracy theorist, but this one young man, you really can't tell me. There are so many dissident facts about this. It always leads me to something deeper. We know how the left was threatened by this incredible force of nature that was Charlie Kirk. So you really have to say to yourself, was it one lone guy? And so there's a
Well,
lot there, to unpack.
God has had his hand over him
Yeah,
probably since the day he was born.
yeah,
And what has happened around the world, not just
incredible,
in the United States,
incredible.
but
Yeah,
around the world in the
yeah,
tributes and the marches, and especially the UK. I mean, everything that's going on. And the trigger
right.
was him, was
Yeah,
him,
yeah. It's
was
a
him.
turning. Linda, it's a
Yeah.
turning. It really is in all of this nonsense that we've lived through in the past decade or so. I mean, it goes back 50 years. I mean, if I get on a rant, I'll just go. It goes back to academia and Hollywood and the people saying, oh, McCarthyism. But meanwhile, that's where the root of all this was. And the indoctrination of our children and academia. This has been a rot on our society for 70 years. But the culmination, but now it's turning. Police can be police again. Thank God that we got President Trump back.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, thank God. Could you
I know.
imagine what this country would have
And
been?
oh, I don't even wanna think about that.
Uh,
But, yeah, I gotta tell you, Erica, his wife,
oh man,
she is the leading force.
incredible,
She
incredible.
is gonna make sure
Right?
that his legacy lives on, and as she said, that no one is gonna forget his name, and we never will.
No,
We
and
never will.
3,200 new requests for Turning Point chapters.
No, actually, it's
3,200.
no,
Oh, it's probably more now.
no, it's 38,000. As of this morning, it was 38,000,
Oh
and
my
all he had
goodness!
before was
Wow,
900 chapters, plus they had some
wow,
high school chapters. So, I mean,
wow.
this is around the world.
That's incredible.
So
That's incredible.
so
Yeah.
I know. It's
So,
just absolutely amazing.
yeah.
So I wanted to at least have you come on, let us
Uh-huh.
know what you were doing. So your podcast again is America in
In
Action,
action, yes.
and it can be found on Spotify
It can be found on Spotify
and
and Amazon Music and a few different places, where basically wherever you get your podcasts. But generally, they go to
mhm,
Spotify. That's the best way to find it.
okay.
And as I said, you'll find older episodes now, and they're just funny and political. And sometimes I get my back up, and it's all that I am. The entertainer that I am, and it's the political kook that I am, and all that. We try to do it in a funny way, but also a pointed way that gets the points of the day and gets the news of the day out in a way that we need to in these times. So I think you'll enjoy
Mm,
it.
well
And then of
well,
course
I wanna thank
go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, go
You
ahead.
can just throw me.
No, go
And then of course
I'll
my
throw you out in a
entertainment.
minute.
Right. My entertainment site is alfusco.com, which if anybody wants to hear
Okay.
this old guy sing, I'm not half bad if I do say so myself. And if anyone wants to book, for corporate events or political events, I would be my pleasure. To sing for the president would be great. I have a good God Bless the USA on there. So that's where I am. And of course, Twitter is alfusco4. And I want to thank you so much for having me on. It's so great to see you again. And I hope I'll come back soon.
Perfect, and we will have you back. So thank you so much. We're gonna go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. You're watching us on OBBM Network TV. And our guest this week was Al Fusco. So thank you for watching and listening. So we're going to go to our first state. Our first state this week is Arizona. Arizona, this is from the AZ Mirror, September 9th. We always have stuff on Arizona. I try to space it like every other week, but Arizona is always in the news. So Arizona counties defy the Attorney General's opinion on voters caught in proof of citizenship error. Thousands of Arizona voters are caught up in a state record-keeping error, will lose at least some voting rights if they don't prove their citizenship, despite the Attorney General for Arizona saying they should remain fully eligible. So in Maricopa County, voters that didn't provide citizenship will only be allowed to vote in federal elections. I kind of think that's funny. I mean, if you didn't prove your citizenship, you can only vote in the federal election? You think it would be the other way around. But anyway, I digress. Pinal County will continue to suspend the registration of any voters affected by the error if they try to change their address or otherwise update their record without proving citizenship documentation. Now, I should note that Maricopa County and Pinal County are the only two of the 15 counties in Arizona that have their separate voter rolls and their separate system from the state in how they operate. So the Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, a Democrat, asked the Attorney General, Chris Mays, to issue an opinion since VoteBeat had pointed out in an article back in April how different counties treat the Arizona voters differently. The AG Mays, also a Democrat, said they should be all treated the same. But since the Attorney General's opinion is not legally binding in these counties, they don't have to follow the opinion. The state error involved the Arizona Motor Vehicle Division, which had records last summer were affecting about 200,000 voters. They had erroneously listed them as having proved their citizenship when they didn't. The League of Women Voters said it's unacceptable for Maricopa and Pinal counties to choose a different path that was recommended by the Attorney General. What a mess. Honestly, what a mess. California, this is from Arizona Family on September 10th. Woman charged for registering her dog to vote. A woman in Santa Ana, California, is accused of registering her dog to vote, had her arraignment postponed. Laura Yurex is charged with 5 felonies for registering her dog, Maya Jean, and for voting for the dog in 2 elections. Her defense attorney, Jamie Coulter, said, quote, Laura Yurex sincerely regrets her unwise attempt to expose flaws in the state voter system, intending to improve it by demonstrating that even a dog can be registered to vote, unquote. The Orange County Supervisor, Katrina Foley, said, you don't do that on purpose to mock the system. Now, 2 members of the Board of Supervisors pushed for an emergency motion, which ultimately failed to have voter rolls examined. another county supervisor, Jeanette Nugent, wanted to examine the county's dog license records to expose potential illegal voters. You can't make this up. And honestly, it's not the first time I've heard this. A couple of years ago, I was notified that 2 dogs were registered in one of the Midwestern states. And I contacted that town's official. And when I had mentioned what I was told, she started laughing and said, "Well, that's not the first time." I was like, "Really?" So apparently, this is a bit of a problem at times with dogs being able to vote. I'm sure there's got to be some cats and little piggies and other animals as well. I don't think it's that of a problem. But anyway, so I'm so glad that California is actually arraigning the woman. All right, now we're going to go on to Georgia. Georgia. This is the Athens Banner Herald from September 9th. Quote, federal involvement is necessary. MTG urges investigation into Georgia elections. U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has formally requested that the FBI and the Department of Justice launch an investigation into the 2020 election process, citing ongoing concerns related to unresolved complaints and alleged irregularities. She pointed to issues including unreconciled data, improper procedures, and what she describes as, quote, failures in the system, unquote. Now, Greene emphasized that the Georgia State Election Board still has outstanding complaints related to how Fulton County managed the 2020 election. The Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and Governor Brian Kemp repeatedly defended Georgia's election results, claiming there was no irregularities when they declared Joe Biden the first Democrat to win the state since Bill Clinton did in 1992. Of course, they're going to say there was nothing wrong. Our next story out of Georgia is from the News from the States on September 9th. Judge says Georgia can prohibit groups from sending unsolicited absentee ballot applications to voters. A federal judge has rejected a challenge to the absentee ballot restrictions implemented under a controversial measure that was passed back in 2021. Now, I should tell you this article is a little bit left-leaning, but we can get through it. The law passed as Senate Bill 202. It included new provisions that prevented voter registration organizations from distributing pre-filled absentee ballot applications to voters or blank applications to any resident who had already requested an absentee ballot, as what happened in 2020. So the U.S. District Judge J.P. Booley, in a 50-page decision, upheld the law's absentee ballot application provisions, ruling the use of pre-filled out ballot applications increased confusion among voters, and the Secretary of State's office had demonstrated, quote, interrelated compelling governmental interest in curtailing their use. The Voter Participation Center and the Center for Voter Information, 2 nonprofits run by Tom Lapek, is not happy with the decision. 2020 was a huge problem. If you remember, people were being sent, I think I was sent like 3 absentee ballot applications myself. I mean, it's just unbelievable on what they were doing. So I am so glad the judge has decided that, no, you can't do that. Let people get their own. So right now we're going to go on to Idaho. Idaho, this is from East Idaho News and Local 8 News, and this is from September 8th. People were charged with illegal voting in Farrant County, and officials aren't talking. There were 7 of them. Okay. Fremont County officials are silent after 7 individuals were recently arrested and charged with allegations of illegal voting on a controversial issue in May. It was May 16th, 2023 election. Now, on the ballot was an initiative for Island Park Precinct 1 titled Island Park Petition to create an auditorium taxing district. They wanted to build a community center in the town funded by a 5% lodging tax. The tax collected by renters, Airbnb, cabins, and other short-term rentals was slated to be able to build the $3 million community center. Well, it was narrowly defeated, 198 voting in favor and 207 against. They're not sure who was for or who were against, but these 7 were charged with felony illegal voting and felony perjury. All of them have their residency questioned. The Idaho Attorney General and Secretary of State's office are not involved in the local voter fraud case, and family members are defending the accused. All this is being handled by the local prosecutors, not the AG's office. So family members of the accused are saying the case has been mishandled by authorities. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda, the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the army.
Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. You are watching us on OBBM Network TV. Thank you for watching. Our next state we're going to be discussing is Maryland. Maryland, the source is Maryland Matters on September 8th, 2025. Conservatives rally in Annapolis in support of federal voter citizenship legislation. Safeguard American Voter Eligibility had a rally for the SAVE Act in Annapolis in front of the Maryland State House. Delegate Matt Morgan, he is a Republican from St. Mary's, is the chair of the Freedom Caucus in the Maryland House of Delegates, requiring an ID to vote, like an ID requirement imposed in Charlie County to attend a county fair. Quote, if the Democrats are willing to enforce this on something as trivial as entering a fair, they should be able to do this for something as important as federal, state, and local elections. That's only common sense. Now think about that. They actually have people prove they're from the county in order to go to a county fair? That in itself is crazy. But opponents of the bill say it would restrict the right to vote for millions of Americans. How many times have we heard that? Honestly, it's several municipalities in the state, including Frederick, Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, and Tacoma Park, even allow, get this, undocumented immigrants to vote in city elections only. Are you kidding me? They allow illegals. They're not undocumented. We have them documented. They came into this country illegally. And these counties in Maryland are allowing them to vote. That is total insanity. Somebody needs to do something about that. can't get over that. Here we had this, New York City back a few years ago. We're trying to have that as having the illegals being able to vote. Yet nestled in our country here on the East Coast in Maryland, we have 5 counties allowing the illegals to vote. Tisk, tisk. Okay, so now we're going to go to Michigan. Michigan, this is from the Michigan House Republicans on September 8th of 2025. Now, I should note before I get into this, I know this is something from the Republicans. If the Democrats, if you have something you want me to read, send it to me, okay? Whether it's from the DNC or your local, Democratic Party, if you want me to get information out there for you, send it to me. info@fightvoterfraud.org. But you guys don't do that. So that's why you're hearing from the Republican House of Representatives in Michigan. Speaker Pro Tem Smith disappointed with lack of agreement following court-ordered mediation. Speaker Pro Tem Rachel Smith addressed the ongoing court-ordered mediation between the House and the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. Mediation was required after Benson continued to refuse lawmaker requests for access to uncontroversial, basic election training information that was provided to the election clerks and stored on the Bureau of Elections, BOE, e-learning portal. Quote, Secretary of State Benson continues to withhold the training materials she hands down to clerks. These documents need to be turned over to the legislature so we can assure our elections are being run effectively and in a non-partisan way. Now, the Michigan Department of State went so far as to say it would take 140 man-hours and cost $9,000 in order to get them the information. Some information was given, and it only took the MDOS 4 hours. But it was still missing the key pieces of information requested. A subpoena was issued, and Secretary of State Benson proceeded to defy the subpoena, leading to a lawsuit seeking court backing that the House subpoena is valid and is issued for a proper legislative purpose. The lawsuit led to court-ordered mediation, which did not yield a positive result. Correct me if I'm wrong. She's also running for governor. And also, when she ran for governor, she violated the campaign finance things by announcing she was running inside the State House, which was illegal. And remember, even though it was illegal, the only person who could turn her in to the Attorney General and have her fined was herself. Hopefully, they're going to fix that law. But now she is still standing in the way of even court-ordered mediation. Just turn the documents over. Unless you're hiding something, unless you are telling your clerks and election officials to do something nefarious. Otherwise, if it's the basic information, turn it over. As you know, I never have opinions. Okay, now we're going to go on to national information. This is from Maine Public on September 8th. Here's a surprise. For a second time, Maine Secretary of State rejects the Department of Justice demands for voter data. Maine Secretary of State Sheena Bellows has once again rejected a request from the Department of Justice for detailed information about the voters in Maine. Now, the Department of Justice has requested information from about 24 states as a part of what the department says is an effort to protect election integrity by ensuring proper maintenance of voter rolls. These requests were rejected by election officials in multiple states, including Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota. Wonder what letter is in front of those states. The original letter requested a complete copy of the Maine statewide voter registration list, including all the fields within the list. The letter also requested a list of election officials responsible for maintaining the list, as well as detailed information about the state's efforts to update the voter rolls. Dillon said in a statement, that's Harmeet Dillon, quote, clean voter rolls and basic election safeguards are requisites for free, fair, and transparent elections. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division has a statutory mandate to enforce our federal voting rights laws and ensuring the public's confidence in the integrity of our elections is a top priority of this administration, unquote. Oh, by the way, in Maine, the Secretary of State, she's also running for governor. Don't they already have the governor there that is defying stuff from President Trump? Unbelievable. So right now, we are going to go to our trivia question. And our trivia question for this week: who was the only president to be elected to or serve and elected in more than 2 terms? We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, and we are talking about our trivia question. For those of you during the break who didn't look it up, our question was, who was the only U.S. president to serve more than 2 terms? Yeah, you got it right. It was FDR, Franklin D. Roosevelt. So now we're going to go to our vote notes. And as you know, our vote notes is a section that there's a lot more information that we want you to know about. So we have it linked to our website, which is fightvoterfraud.org under vote notes. And this week it's Washoe County gives an update on election planning ahead of next year's midterms. So Washoe County, you'll have all the information there as far as what is going on in their county for all their elections that are coming up. So our next thing that we do at this time of the show are my final thoughts. This week, my final thoughts are dedicated to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was absolutely an amazing man, a good man, an incredible man. I don't know how many people could actually stand themselves up with Charlie on what he has done, not only for the country, but around the world. And more importantly, to the youth, those at the universities whose voices haven't been heard because we've had decades of indoctrination going on. It's unbelievable. I think the most unbelievable stuff, besides the fact that Charlie was assassinated, are the number of people who have been basically dancing on his grave. Those going on video and saying how happy they were that he died. I am so glad that there are consequences now for those who have done that. I don't know what the count is now. I saw something this morning that there was over 700 people who have already lost their jobs, from doctors to teachers to grief counselors, unbelievable, to suicide prevention people, unbelievable. We do have a problem in this country. But what's happened now, as his wife Erica has pointed out, they have no idea what you've done and what you've unleashed, not only across the country, but around the world. Absolutely an incredible man. I was introduced to him twice. No, I don't know him well at all, but I did have the opportunity to meet him in person. And not only from his stature, but his demeanor, everything about him is just incredible. And our hearts are still heavy. I know when I first heard it, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. And then I had anger for what was done. But you got to let the anger go and see what he has done with Turning Point and for the people of this country and, again, around the world. No one will ever be like Charlie. And I saw on a program, Greg Gutfeld yesterday said that Charlie Kirk's death is not related to any news bites or any particular time. Basically, he's going to be forever. He's our American martyr. Now, we have a few clips that we'd like you to watch. As again, thank you for watching SYNC-O-WICZ on OBBM Network TV. And please watch the clips that we have of Charlie Kirk.
This is the most important message from tonight. If you are out there ever complaining about the security of our elections, then you better work as hard as you've ever worked about winning this election coming on April 1st, because it's the most important thing that you could do when it comes to election integrity.
So tell me why you're against voter ID.
Absolutely. Great question. So you have to start first with those that have the most difficult time going and voting. For example, native tribal folks. You have poor and disenfranchised folks.
Should I have to show an ID to board an airplane?
You should have to show an ID, yes.
So why do we want to secure the identity of those on airplanes, but not those that cast precious votes?
Well, there's a difference between a privilege and a right, as you stated yourself. And there's a privilege
to
take
agree.
an airplane.
But don't you agree rights are more important to protect than privileges? So it actually works in my favor. Rights you should secure a lot more than privileges.
Actually, not in the instance that you're speaking of, because when we're using an ID, it's about the verification of who's paying for the flight and things of that nature. But when you talk about voter ID
That's
law,
not correct. A third party can pay for the flight. Why are we doing identification when you board an airplane? We want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and so we do that. Why? So that you don't have fraudulent identity, or that you're not on a do not fly list, right?
Do you believe that some citizens are more valuable than others? Because in our current system, some people's votes hold more sway than others, because people in like Wyoming, who have smaller populations, have more say than places like here in Missouri and Kansas. Why is this acceptable if it's, again, your issue is the will of the people?
Because we're not a democracy. So a democracy is simple majoritarianism. So let me give you an example. In a democracy, by up or down vote, you could say, I want to enslave black people. A constitutional republic says, no, you're going to have to go through a process to do that. So let me ask you a question. Do you think the majority of the will of the people could ever be wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So the founding fathers knew it could almost assuredly be wrong. Right? So the system of a republic versus a democracy is it has to be slow and arduous and intentional, because it has a preference on liberty, right, not on free stuff.